Okay, so now we're going to show you our plant-based alternative for the main course, which is going to be a Tempeh Wellington. So it's a twist on a classic beef Wellington, but we're swapping out the meat and we're using tempeh instead. Now what I've done, I've prepared some ingredients all ready to go. So we've made a mushroom duxelle, which is very finely chopped up shallots. Mushrooms, mainly used the roots, we used a lot of the peel from the mushrooms and the stalks. Chopped that up, fried that off, quite an intense heat, basically cooking out all the moisture, and that's been seasoned up and allowed to cool down. We've got some plant-based alternatives to the devil on horseback, where we've taken a prune, a roasted almond, put the almond inside the prune, and we've wrapped it in a plant-based bacon alternative. Some of the nicer mushrooms, where we use the stalks and the peel for the duxelle, we've actually trimmed up and we put those in a pickling vinaigrette. We've also got a lovely plant-based black pudding alternative. Now to start assembling. So I'm going to use some shop-bought puff pastry, absolutely no shame in that, really good product, and importantly vegan as well.
How would you ensure it's vegan then, Keith?
So if we were making it from scratch, we'd use vegan baking butter. But yeah, this particular brand, their puff pastry is vegan.
It's all vegetable based, all the fats used in it, right? It would say that on the packaging, won't it?
But most prominent brands, they do that now.
Yeah,
just to
I've noticed.
get all bases covered. So just ease it out, we don't want to tear it at this stage. It's rolled perfectly for us already. So again, it's just one less job we need to worry about over Christmas.
So we're using tempeh for this. So what is tempeh and why is it such a good alternative to the beef in the Wellington?
So tempeh it's a fermented soy product. So we've got some blocks here that I've actually cut into rectangles. And it's where the soybeans have been fermented and pressed. So it's quite a dense object, but it really holds up a meaty texture.
You can tell, can't you, just by feeling it's quite meaty.
Absolutely. So once the pastry is rolled out, leave that on the counter. We've got some vegan crepes that have been made. And again, this is just using soy milk rather than eggs and flour, sweetened up with a little bit of syrup.
Could you make these in advance?
Yeah, absolutely. So these were made in advance, again, just to take a little bit of the workload off it. So these can be made sort of a couple of days in advance and left in the fridge. Now we're just going to overlap those. And the purpose of this is to stop the duxelle and any moisture during cooking, really make the pastry soggy. Thank you. So now what I want to do is take a decent spoonful of the duxelle. And as you can see, it's nice and tacky, so you can move it around. It doesn't matter too much, it doesn't have to be super precise, because this is going to move around during the cooking as well. It's just forming an extra base layer. And again, this is something that we would do with the beef Wellington. Yeah. So there's absolutely no reason why we wouldn't do it with a plant-based alternative.
I was going to say, at the moment, it's generally like a beef Wellington.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's kind of the whole point, right? Gone are the days where I think we should see vegan food as something that needs to be completely different. That happened in the past, but it's not necessary anymore. There's so many great alternatives out there. And it's all about making your menu inclusive as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Even this, the alternatives to the bacon, you know, it smells like it, it tastes like it when it's being cooked. There's no reason why people should be left out.
Absolutely, absolutely. And especially with Christmas, you might have family and friends round, and yeah, there's going to be a whole bounty of dietary requirements that you potentially have to cater for. And at least this way, everyone gets a decent meal out of it. So trying to make a nice consistent layer of the duxelle. Again, there's so much flavour in this from where we fried off the mushrooms. Loads of umami flavour that's really going to transfer across in this dish. Spread it out to the edge.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then assemble the tempeh down the middle. So again, we've cut it into strips. It does normally come in almost like a log form. You could use that as a larger, almost like a larger fillet steak replica. Okay. And then just cut thinner slice at the end. I quite like it like this. And once we've got that in the middle, we're actually going to use the crepes to roll up. In fact, you can roll the whole thing over like so.
I notice you're using the paper from the pastry as well, so that's a good way of using that.
saves something less to clean up, and yeah, it just makes your life a little bit easier.
That's what we want on Christmas Day, don't we?
Absolutely. Now, I'm not going to need all this pastry, so I've just rolled it to the end. I'm actually going to turn it round to make my life a little bit easier. And then again, in the same way, I'm just going to roll it up, peel the paper back slightly, and now you don't really need to worry about putting anything on there. The pastry is going to bind and it's going to stick. And then once I know where my level's at, I'm just going to roll that back. I'm just going to take a sharp knife and just cut down this edge, just to trim off any extra pastry.
What could you do with that extra pastry, Keith?
So you could actually make some decorations to go over the Wellington. You could actually do some twists with there. You can put some, if it wasn't vegan, you could put some cheese down the middle, do it into little twirls, bake them through the oven.
Great for welcoming guests with the drink.
Absolutely. Anything you could normally do with pastry.
Brilliant.
So there we go. So it's rolled over and it's sealed. Now at home, again, you can make this well in advance. Leave it in the fridge overnight and it will set up nicely. We're going to bake it straight away. So if I unravel it, we've got a tray with some greaseproof paper on. And then if I cut my Wellington roughly in half, we can transfer it onto the baking tray nice and easily.
That holds really nice as well.
It really does. It's a nice texture. We can see on the cross section that it's got everything in there. So get this out of the way. I'm then going to use some almond milk. There's a little bit of a glaze over the top. Again, brush it around the outside. And that's just going to help the pastry caramelise up a little bit in the oven.
So this is traditionally where you'd use some egg?
Yeah, of course. So this will be the egg wash stage. If you don't have any almond milk, this isn't essential, but like I said, it's going to add a nice bit of colour to it.
Almond has a nice sweetness to it as well that caramelizes up really nicely.
Absolutely. So there we go. I'm then going to score just some lines across the pastry, which will fan out during the cooking.
Is that just for decoration, chef?
Yeah, well, it allows some of the steam to escape, so it doesn't risk your pastry blowing up and bobbling out, essentially. But also, it's a nice decoration on there. Right, we've got that on there. We're going to pop our devils on horseback. We can just dot those around the tray. And then with our vegan black pudding, I'm just going to take a little spoon of a neutral vegetable oil. Give those a light colouring in. Just because because it's a plant-based product, there's no fat in there, so we want some oil to help crisp it up a little bit in the oven. Again, just dot those around the tray. And that's it. So we're going to put it in the hot oven now. So we've got the oven set at 190 degrees, and we're going to put it in there for about 30 minutes. You may need to turn your tray around halfway through the cooking. Just keep an eye on the pastry, where it's colouring up and where it isn't. Okay, so that's been in the oven for about 30 minutes now. The pastry's nicely crisped up, so we're ready to take it out and place up. While Rory's taking that out of the oven, I'm just going to remove some of the mushrooms from the pickle and just blot them dry. And there we go, so some really nice colours on there. Now I'm actually going to cut this in half for the portion. Make sure we plate up these plant-based devil on horsebacks. And for presentation, it's always nice to plate things in three, or at least odd numbers. While I'm plating that up, Rory, would you mind passing the sauce?
Absolutely.
So what we've done for the sauce, we've done a take on mulled wine. So we've taken port, we've reduced it down over an intense heat. We've added some vegetable stock and there's mould seasoning in there. So we've got whole cinnamon, we've got some cloves and we've got some star anise, as well as some prunes as well, which have melted down into the sauce. So you could pass that for a sieve for me, please.
That's It's lovely and rich, that sauce, isn't it?
It sure is. Loads of flavour in there. And we've got a nice Tempeh Wellington, which is the star of the show. You can go in the middle of the plate. Nice flaky puff pastry. Thank you. Excuse me. And we'll just dot on some pickled mushrooms, just for a bit of lightness. It's quite a rich dish. We've got the plant-based black pudding, we've got the rich puff pastry, so it's just some sharp mushrooms, really add some acidity and help with the overall flavour balance. And then we've got our nice thick sauce. We're going to plate over the Wellington and just let it run down onto the dish. And there we have it, our plant-based alternative to a Wellington. Tempeh Wellington, plant-based, devils on horseback, pickled mushrooms and vegan black pudding.
It looks absolutely stunning, chef.